Hi, Helen.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Good to see you again. We're going to try to pick up the conversation where we were last time. And I was just thinking, how are we going to pick up the conversation from where we were last time? Because we were like, woo, 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 woo. And then we both had to go. But I just want to start by saying how amazing it is that we are both finally out of the woo woo closet. Firmly me. I mean, I feel like you stepped out of it before me, like long before me. What was it like when you kind of started to go, I'm not just going to be Helen from Clutter Rescue and help people pick out what kind of plastic containers they want for their wardrobes? I know you did much more than that, but when you started to move into your elemental space clearing, did that feel scary?
Oh, I actually find that such a hard question to answer, Kelly, because I think by the time I got to the elemental space clearing side of my journey, I was actually pushed out of the woo woo closet. I think I had to wind back many years before then when I kind of, dip my toe out and then I pull it back in because it was too scary, or I dip my other toe out and someone would say something that kind of knocked me off kilter or made me feel weird or, crazy or whatever. And so then I'd go back in. So I felt like I yo-yoed in and out. I mean, let's face it, I was born like this and I had these kind of skills and gifts and abilities forever. But, you throw yourself quite firmly in that closet,
Yeah.
particularly when, you're encouraged not to be like that. And so stepping out is really scary. And when you step out, it's a real trust exercise, when you step out and if you're confident and somebody is there to hold you safely, you'll step out even further. But if what you receive in return is, uncomfortable or frightening or whatever, you tend to pull yourself back in. So I did that journey for a long time. So stepping into the space clearing was really my way of going, I am woo woo, but if anyone asks me about it, I'm not sure I can really go there because I was still quite scared. I had no idea of the reaction I was going to get from people.
Yeah, I can remember. Well, I was in an EFT tapping session, and we were going back through, something, like going back. And I remember having this flashback of my husband. I think it was around 2018. I think it was when my book was coming out. And I remember saying to my husband, I just done this journaling and my in bed thing, and I came up with this whole idea of like at the time a kind of manifesting law of attraction type of course. And I put down my journal and I got up. I remember we were getting ready for the gym and I suddenly went, oh, I've got this idea. And I kind of blurted out my idea. He stopped what he was doing. He turned around and he said, you can't do that. You've got a book and a following and everyone knows you for being lifestyle and time management for busy mothers. And if you do that, it basically was saying everyone's going to run for the hills. And it was like such a like moment, where and because I have this long-term vision of retiring my husband so that he doesn't have to work so many hours, and so my business is going to become is I realized later it became kind of a pressure. It became this kind of, I've got to, but what model is going to make the income that's going to be able to replace his income? It was this whole messy thing I was in at the time. And yeah, that put me firmly back into the closet again, where I didn't dare bring that into my work or anything. And it was almost, then I started my membership, Project We, and, still talking about the book and all this practical stuff. And it was almost as if I was living two lives. It was, I had all the stuff that I knew was helping me in the way that I was weaving all this, woo woo. And I say woo woo, we say woo woo very affectionately. We don't say woo woo in a kind of like woo woo, like that kind of way. We say it in a woo woo is wonderful way. But I felt like I was weaving all this woo woo into my life, but I was teaching other people, and on my social media and in my courses and everything, it was all very practical. And I was like, this is just, it's not me being authentic, right? And it wasn't until 2020 that I launched my High Vibe Journey program timidly to 12 women, like ooh, whatever. And it turned it into like, the biggest success. And I realized that the more I started stepping out into this kind of work, the more income it was bringing me, the more people it was bringing me, the more, when you're doing something that's genuine and authentic, you become magnetic, right? And so, it took a while for me to actually show my husband like the bookkeeping and say, here's how much I'm making from the book and from this kind of practical stuff. Here's how much I'm making from this stuff. And it was like, oh, and then he kind of shut up about it, So,
though, Kelly, I had a similar kind of situation with my husband too, in that it took me 2 years to actually voice the words, I think I'm psychic. And I knew I could have dropped the word think, because I knew, right? I knew I was psychic, but I had to soften the blow a little bit, because I felt like I needed to make that okay. And saying out loud, I think I'm psychic. My husband turned around to me and he says, I don't believe in psychics. And so I just felt so wounded.
Well, it's like he's saying, I don't believe in you.
Correct.
I mean, if he doesn't believe in psychics, He doesn't believe in you. And when your husband doesn't believe in you,
what? So it was what did I do? Well, of course, I did what Helen did very well in those days, which was go back into my shell, or go back into the cupboard, if you like, and do very much like what you did. Do the two sides of me, the practical stuff, the organizing stuff, the supporting women to move from busy to balance stuff, all that kind of practical stuff. When my spiritual psychic stuff just felt so trapped. And so it took about 2 years for me to then loop back around to that conversation with my husband. So there was a lot of healing that needed to go on all sorts of levels. Mm-hmm. But I looped back to that conversation with him and I said, okay, about 2 years ago, this is what I said to you, and this was the reaction. And now this is really how I felt about it at the time. But our relationship had obviously evolved a lot in the 2 years, because when you say things like that, and even if you don't use the word psychic, even if you say, I'm woo-woo, I'm into spiritual stuff, or, I like alternative self-help books, or whatever your words are, doesn't really matter. But once you voice those, the universe will line up and start to make the reality happen, particularly if you're meant to literally fall out of that cupboard, smack on your face and, help other people in the process. So looping back to that conversation with my husband was actually really cathartic and really healing for both of us, because he was then able to say, I'm really sorry. I didn't hear you. I didn't realize that was such a big deal. And what can we do? Like, how can we move forward with this? And, even now, there's things I do that I don't share with him, because there's, some of them are pretty out there, and you share them with people who, again, will hold you safely, right? But he knows I do this work. He doesn't understand it, and that's totally fine. We're all happy with that.
I think that has been a big aha for me in recent times too, is that he doesn't have to get it. He doesn't have to understand all this. How could he understand it? For me, and I'm sure for you too, it's like a gradual unfolding, and one thing doesn't make sense at first, and then down the line, it suddenly makes perfect sense. And you can't speed somebody into that. And if somebody's not into it at all, then there's no point. But I too feel like the more I stopped hiding it, and the more I just started weaving it just kind of into like normal conversation. I mean, the stuff, not everything, but just saying stuff without being afraid of it. It just kind of normalized things. I stopped hiding. I used to get into bed at night, and if I was reading a book, I was going to talk to you about this book, so I have it here anyway, but The Leap, Spiritual Awakening. I would literally have my hand over the cover, because he's on this side of me, right in bed. I have my hand over the cover. Like, I wouldn't want him to see what book I was reading, It was almost like having to put a brown jacket cover over the book, or, whatever. I was always hiding. I put something over the book on my bedside table if it was anything, if it was anything like this, I was just always kind of hiding that from him. I think it was defensiveness, because if he were to ask me about it, I wouldn't want to have to defend it. I wouldn't want to like explain it or defend it, or even if he rolled his eyes or something, then that would hurt me or something, right? And the more, and I realized he never did that. I just kind of thought that he would. And so the less I stopped trying to cover it up, and the more I just this stuff's lying around here now everywhere. My crystals out, I was going to tell you this, like just before the call, I was like, wait, I'm going on a call with Helen, formerly Clutter Rescue. And I was like giving my office like the biggest, I was like, oh my God, I hadn't realized it had gotten quite messy. So thank you. I did a whiz clean, and I did a quick elemental space clearing as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
with your sage.
not on your level, but you know, I like cleared
Yeah.
the air. I'm like, I got to get things like really clear for Helen. So now there are just my, you know, and also I remember one time he came into the bedroom when I had a tarot spread out, and he was like, oh, you know, like, oh, you know, like that. And but I owned it, and I was just like, hey, this is, you know, this is just what I do. And now he doesn't bat an eyelid, and he'll just come in, I've got cards going on, or I've got cards all over the place. So I'm just realizing how I'm not hiding it anymore from him, and that he doesn't mind, and it's just a part of who I am. And yeah.
Isn't it funny though? It's nearly like we make this up in our head that this is what the reaction is going to be, and we know that we, you know, married this man, or we have a relationship with this person, and they know us as this thing, or this person, or we wear this suit or this mask or whatever with them, or play this role. But the reality is, neither of us and no one on this planet is the same person as we were yesterday or last year or 10 years ago, or when we walked down the aisle, or whenever we got committed in that relationship, right? So we look at all the evolutions of us, and I think as women, we kind of think, well, I have to be this way because that's the woman he married, or that's how my partner expects me to be. Mm-hmm. Instead of going, we actually have a right to step into our sovereignty and own who the hell we are. And if that equals spiritual stuff, whatever that might look like, then happy days. As long as we are showing up with an open and true heart, and we're here to do good on the planet, we're not doing any harm. And I always find it fascinating, you know, you might be at a dinner party or at the grocery store or somewhere where there's other people, and you might say something, you're thinking in your brain, oh my gosh, if I say this, they're going to think I'm a total Fruit Loop. But you say it, and then all of a sudden you've got a connection, because you don't know, that might be exactly what that person needs to hear, or they might be into the same thing or have a response which will help. And before you know it, you're off on some esoteric conversation, which is just gold.
What I am finding with myself is that I'm realizing that because people have come to know me as being very practical, because that's what my book's about, that's what the tribe I've built is very, you know, come to see me as very practical. It's almost like I can come at this from practical woo-woo, you know, like people have told me, who've done my high vibe journey program, my higher program, I do a little questionnaire at the very beginning, and they fill it in, and it says, where are you on the woo-woo scale? 10 being like really out there, you know, 1 being like, or 0 being not at all. And it's just amazing. Like nobody in the beginning puts, like, you know, before over a 7 or an 8, you know, some people kind of put maybe a 7 or a 6. Some people put, what is woo woo? I don't know what you mean. And because that is a terminology, I realize that, like, you know, in our circles, we kind of say, but not everybody even knows what we mean by woo woo, you know? And what the amazing thing is that later on, when they go on to do like my next level program and everything, they come back and they say, I didn't even know what any of this was. Their worlds really were about paying the bills, their to-do list, managing their time. You know, there was joy, of course, you know, but they just didn't understand these higher levels of consciousness, like just not on their radar, because some people are just naturally, they're not naturally going to be drawn to those people on social media or on YouTube or read the books or whatever. That's just not, it's not in their community. It's not in their family. It's not in there. It's just not in them. They don't think. But as soon as it sort of gets introduced to them, these concepts, suddenly they starts to click. They start to wake up. And I love seeing that, because then suddenly they're open to having their soul plans read, and then they're living by their soul plans, and they're opening up even more. And I just love that. I wanted to talk to you actually. Oh, a couple of things have just blown into my mind. One, that I just saw that you've qualified as a soul plan practitioner as well. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Just again, like our parallel paths, our paths that keep kind of, going apart, coming together. I'm like, we're both soul plan practitioners. Like, how did you fall into it? Did you have your soul plan read?
No, I hadn't. Actually, I had not. But it's interesting. Someone asked me this question earlier today, and I said it was exactly the same thing with space clearing. Right? I knew about space clearing for a long, long time. I'd known about soul plan for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. But it just wasn't the right timing, I suppose, or I just wasn't in the right space, because I'm all now about following my intuition and going where I'm meant to go. So when it came with the space clearing, I saw the course and went, right, I'm going to do that. And it started in 10 days. So I just signed up. The exact same thing happened with soul plan. I saw it. It started in 10 days. Right, I'm going to sign up. And I just follow that knowing now. So that's really how I fell into the soul plan. And I had totally forgotten, Kelly, that you had done it until we reconnected, through those private messages. What was, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. I feel like when I mentioned before about that door being shut, when my husband made that comment back in, I think it was 2018, I had 2 years. It felt like longer than that, but it felt like 2 years of me feeling like I want to help people on a deeper level. I had this like calling. I now see it as my soul, like pushing me, whatever, but it was like, I want to help people on a level that's beyond managing their to-do list and their time and their living a balanced life. Like, I want to help people on a deeper level. Now, I've dabbled in all kinds of wonderful modalities, really amazing. They've always just fallen into my lap, like the breadcrumb trail, and I've thought, well, I love EFT. Should I train to be an EFT practitioner? I love, what are some of the other things I've done? I've done so many things. I've debated about doing several courses, several programs, becoming qualified. And then I just keep resisting it. I think I have a resistance to qualifications. I have a resistance to it. I don't need a piece of paper, in other words. I don't need a piece of paper to prove anything. And I know that some people are kind of the opposite. They're like, I won't feel like I'm worthy enough until I have the piece of paper that says I have the qualification. I don't have that. I feel like I want to learn different things, but I don't need a piece of paper at the end of it. And so I had my soul plan read by Anita, who you now know. And my soul plan was just like all about, and I realized I brought your soul plan up, Helen. We've got some shared soul plan energies. And one of our shared challenges, spiritual challenges, the 6-6. And 6-6 energy in a spiritual challenge is about flitting from one thing to another, to another, to another, like being a bit of a dabbler in the butterfly syndrome, flying over there, flying over there, flying over there, and for me, that was a challenge in the sense of trying all kinds of things, but never really landing on what was going to be the modality that I would want to share with people, that I could be bringing into the world. And just this constant flitting, and then frustration, and then just when the energy depletion afterwards of just like diving into so many spiritual themes and getting exhausted by the whole thing, and then kind of starting at square one again. And so when I had my soul plan read, and then the breadcrumb trail, like you said, suddenly this thing pops up about soul transformation therapy training. It was during lockdown. I needed something to do. I wanted something, and I didn't even think I would do that as my work, but I just did it for me. And it wasn't the soul plan training. It was taught by Blue Marsden himself, and it was soul transformation therapy. And by the end of that, I became a qualified soul transformation therapist. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll need to try this with some clients. So, I got some people who'd done my programs and such, to have these sessions with me. And it just gave me the confidence that I needed to realize that like, there's something to this. So then when the soul plan training came, I did that. And that is when I just completely went, yes, and started working with people one-on-one. And now I finally, it's like that little itch that's been scratching me for 2 years has just been, and I'm not saying this is the be all end all, it's a stepping stone. There's more I can be doing. But right now, reading people's soul plans is bringing me so much joy, and the feedback that I'm getting from the work. And I know that you've just qualified, so I don't even know if you've had a chance to do many yet, but
yeah, well, I finished the course. I think time is such a weird anomaly.
I think it was last week. I think I saw it. I think I saw it on Facebook last week.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but regardless, I've done 2 readings since. Great. And I've got 2 booked for next week, and I've got people kind of lining up, which is really beautiful. And I'm really enjoying it. And I think that bringing my skill set to the soul plan, like all the stuff I've done before, whether it's the stepping out of the closet, or whether it's the shamanic medicine woman work that I've done, or whether it's the spiritual mentoring, or whatever it is that I'm doing, the space clearing, bringing all of that and then stepping into the soul plan learnings was really good for me. If I'd done soul plan 5 years ago, I certainly wouldn't have, yes, I would have been an okay age to be, a bit wiser. But now I think there's been so much happen in my life, so much growth, that stepping into the soul plan structure, and as a practitioner, I can weave these other magic elements into it.
Yeah.
And the thing that, like, the people who I've done the readings for, obviously I'm still very much in my infancy, given it was only a week, or
I think it was 2 weeks or something.
2 weeks ago, that I became certified. What the ladies giving back to me has been really beautiful. They can really see that it makes sense for them. They can see that there's practical ways in their lives. And on my blog, because I redid all my branding and website last year, about November 2021, and my web developer said, we need a few words at the top of the blog page. What are we going to put there? And I said, where practicality and spirituality collide. And that's, that came well before I did the soul plan stuff. But if I take all of the things that I've done and I line them all up, in a nice little row, and I put soul plan at the end, that's exactly what it is, right? Yeah. Because you and I both came from the practical side. And the practical side is important. We have to wake up. We have to pay the bills. We
need that foundation. Yeah. If people are running around like a headless chicken every day, and they're, like you said, they're unorganized and everything, then they don't have the space to be able to move into these higher levels of consciousness. They're too busy in their 3D reality, just like you said, just floundering. And so I think the work that we have done in the past to help our clients, and what I'm still doing, because I've still got my Project We membership and I'm still doing all that stuff, but it's building that firm foundation. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm on a little bit of a tangent here. I feel that when too many people think that it's just about managing their lives, and then when their lives get into a really good management point of view, that's when everything is just going to be, and they don't realize that that's just the foundation to get you to open up to your inner world. It's your outer world and your inner world. And I know your podcast is even called that. Tell everyone the name of your podcast.
Oh, well, the current one is called Trust and Transform, the Your Inner Room podcast.
And your inner room, meaning, your inner being. And it's very much, that's the way I'm now seeing my life wheel. My life wheel has the petals that are all around the outside. All those petals represent your outer world, all those areas of your life that, need to be in a nicer balance, so that you've got that sense of stability. But that circle in the middle, the red circle that I put into just as a design flourish, because it was just going to look weird to have a white nothing in the middle. I put this red circle in the middle, and I'm now seeing that that circle in the middle is your inner world. And that is, you know, what really begins to open up for you when you have that more balanced outer world.
Yeah, yeah. I had an amazing, the term your inner room came to me through an amazing, you know, journey meditation experience. And I just love how, you know, if we're open to those opportunities for the wisdom to land, but we have to get off that treadmill. We have to get out of our head. We have to go, you know, there's more to life than just ticking the to-do list off. And that can take courage to do, to step away
definitely.
from that.
Yeah. You mentioned a journey, and I did a shamanic mentorship for 1 year. It got me through, you know, all of 2020. I was running my program, but at the same time I was doing this shamanic mentorship with Dakota Earth Cloud Walker in America. And these journeys, I mean, they're incredible when it's more than a meditation, right? I mean, the drums are taking you, the rattles are taking you, and you're just going through a portal into other realms of consciousness. And it's just incredible what you find there. And in the beginning, you can think, oh, that was just my imagination. And, you know, well, you know, our imagination is the gateway to it all. And, you know, am I just making all this up? And then you realize that there's just too much out there, you know, for it to all be made up. And the more you get into all that stuff, it's just incredible. That leads me to what I really wanted, what we were kind of talking about when, okay, so you know how within the same few days of each other, I woke up and had the buzzing in my head and the that stuff going on in my head. And then you posted on Facebook that you'd had that. And I know that's not the first time for you, but you'd had a really powerful buzzing in your head and everything. And then when we messaged each other and we got on that call, you said, I thought it was awakening, and you said ascension. And then we didn't really get to talk more about that. So tell me what you make of this stuff that's happening to us and to others right now.
It's really interesting. I think we need to separate firstly what is awakening and what is ascension. And it's very interesting because since I sent you that message and we connected, I've been really thinking about ascension in particular. But let's talk about awakening first. Mm-hmm. And because I think that's the easiest place to start.
Yeah.
I believe that awakening is a process which can happen either quickly or slowly, depending on who you are. You and I would say that we awakened quite some time ago.
Yeah.
But
gradually,
we didn't just gradually. Yeah. We didn't just open the door and step out and go, hey, here I am now. I'm a spiritually awakened person. It was a gradual process, which can often be quite gentle, or quite brutal, depending on the process. But it might be things like, you know, I'm starting to believe in angels, or my son and I would drive around the city and we go, you know, thank you, traffic fairies, and can we get the parking fairies? And, you know, it's amazing what opens up to you when you start to believe. And at the moment, it's a game for us now, but, you know, that can be where you start. You actually start to call on the angels, call on your guides, aware that there's elementals, whether they're fairies or tree keepers or leprechauns or goblins or whatever, that you think there's other elements out there. And that's that awakening process. And when you feel like you start to take the blinkers off, and you take it off in a gentle, safe, you know, slow-ish kind of way. And it's actually really beautiful, because it's what you said before, Kelly, where the ladies on that scale of 0 to 10, you know, where are you on the woo-woo scale? And then you see that transformation, and you see them 12, 18, whatever months later, and they themselves are acknowledging that they've awakened to there's something else. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's nearly always something else. Like, I think we're always going to be expanding in our awakening process.
There's always something else. That's so for sure. It's like, as soon as you're kind of like, oh, I finally gotten to grips with this, and yeah, now I've got proof of it. You know, proof is, you know, the magic that happens, the synchronicities, the coincidences that are just too big to write off, the feeling, all of that. And suddenly you're embodying that, and then ding, there's something else. And then you
Yeah, you're off down another little journey or rabbit hole or whatever.
What I will say is that I used to worry about that because I thought if I became too woo-woo, if I got too into all the stuff that I knew was out there, that I would change too much and there'd be a disconnect when my husband wouldn't understand me anymore, that we would drift apart, that my friends wouldn't get me anymore. I really did have a fear of awakening. As I was awakening quite, not super fast, but, as I was having like a lot of awakenings, I was like, I don't want to change. I want to change, but I don't want to change. I wanted the stability of my friendships and my family and my husband and all that stuff that, the solid, root chakra stuff. But I wanted to like open up my crown chakra and be like, like that. And I'm really happy to say that they're not mutually exclusive, that it isn't like you have to cling on to being a certain way. When you evolve, it's just an internal thing. It's how you feel inside. And whether you want to express that outwardly to others, or like you said, you pick and choose who you're going to share what with, it's just a beautiful, beautiful feeling that doesn't make you higher than, better than, different than. It's just beautiful. Like it's amazing. So I wish I could have had a crystal ball and been able to tell myself, you have nothing to fear in the awakening process, Kelly. Like, it's just, you're going to be you, just like a more amplified, beautiful, vibrant version of you. But you're not going to change in a weird way.
No, because you'd be wearing purple velvet and jingle jangles, and it would be the total opposite to the Kelly who was, and still is within you.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with an awakening process, one of the challenges, is to not try and drag everyone else along with you. To go, how you pick up the book and you think, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing since sliced bread and I've got to buy it for everyone for Christmas because I want them to come with me.
I did that with the magic. Rhonda Byrne's The Magic back in 2005 or whatever it came out. Yeah,
it's a tough call because it's a really solo journey, and what you need to do is surround yourself with other people who are, I would suggest, just a little bit in front of you of the journey, not necessarily you're never going to find someone on the exact same level anyway, really, but someone who's perhaps been through some of the stuff. Like if I had known someone who I could turn to and say, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm finding, whether it's energetically in my body or with my clair abilities going, off the charts or whatever. If there was somebody I could talk to who then went, number one, Helen, you're not going insane. Number two, this is how you can manage it in your daily life, because that's really important. But then three, this is how you can use those beautiful gifts that you are born with, spiritual gifts, to actually make sense of your world. I would have, been at that person's door in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Because I think now there's a lot more people saying, I am awakening, or, I hesitate to say I'm awakened because, as I've already said, there's always this expansion, but there's always someone in front of you who's hopefully taken a few more steps or fallen down the hole and can help you step over the hole so you don't have to, go down the same path.
It's so true when we have that support of people who get it, or who are at least open-minded to hearing it, even if they don't get it. It just makes all the difference. I feel so blessed that I happen to have 3 soul sisters, and they're just incredible. They didn't know each other before. We had independent friendships with each of them. But, we now kind of come together sometimes. And I just know that, and they are my little angels, it'd be like, we always think of each other and send each other a message, or we'll draw a card for the person on that day, right when they need to hear it. So we've got all these synchronicities happening. And then what's happening now is, aside from my Project We community, I've got, people who've done my program, and we've got like another community going there. And I just went on retreat with a group of those women and everything. And so, yeah, when you've got community and you've got 7/7 in your worldly goal as well, back to soul plan again, when I have that as well. So my my 7/7. I've got 7/7 as my soul destiny. So 7/7 energy is about creating community, about bringing people together, being a catalyst for change. And really it's about, it is about that, those connections and all of that. It's like not doing it on your own, but like creating these environments. So you're finding in your work that you're doing more group work?
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting. Obviously, COVID threw a spanner in all sorts of face-to-face events, but starting to step more back into doing that, because as I'm sure it's everybody, for 2 years or whatever the time frame, we were solo, we were on our own, we were looking at everyone on Zoom, and that became very fatiguing after and exhausting and annoying. And stepping back into this space of being in a vibration with other people. And I'm not saying, because I'm very energetically sensitive, I'm not going to go necessarily to a 100-room event, 100 people event, sorry, not 100 rooms, 100 people event. But I might go somewhere where there's a smaller group of people, because it's that small community and being held by the right people, I find, is the important part of this whole journey. And I think that this leads us quite nicely, Kelly, if it's okay, to ascension.
Yes, please.
And this idea of ascension. So again, I've been thinking about this a lot since our first connection, and actually having conversations in my own head with my spirit team, with people, who are very close, my little tribe as well, going, I'm really interested to really unpack this a bit more, because I think we have to be careful in the spiritual community. Am I on a higher rung than you, Kelly, because I've done X, Y, Z and this, that, and the rest of it, right? And I think ascension gives the impression that I am now, I don't know, Jesus or God, or do you know what I mean? Like I have
on a higher level somehow than everybody else, or
I've evolved to be a higher level than you. And that, I think, is bollocks. And I think that probably happens in spirit world once I'm dead, on the other side. Someone else is in charge of that. That does not happen to me here. What happens to me here, I believe this, and I know other people have many differing views on it. I believe that we expand and contract, and we expand and we're pushing out, like a bit like a balloon. If you're on the inside of it, you're pushing it out, right? And then you contract a little bit, and then you expand a bit further, and the balloon gets bigger, and then you contract and you expand, and you get, so it's a bit like your computer, in that your computer stays the same, my body stays the same, but my computer gets upgrades because I get told every 2 months, to upgrade the operating system or whatever. So my body, and that comes back to what I posted, on Facebook around, the head tingles and all that kind of stuff. I have that all the time. But when I posted that, it was, off the charts. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is when that expansion is happening, when that upgrade is happening. And when I am then stepping into a new version of me. And often that can be, lots of downloads of information, or it can be, those clear abilities increasing, or whatever it is. It's not my schedule, it's spirit schedule, and they just kind of make it happen anyway. So that's my thoughts on ascension. I'm not sure what you think.
That. No, I mean, I don't have a view on it. So I love that, because it just made such sense to me. The whole, when you said about how your computer operating system, and then when you do it, it's still your same computer, and everything still kind of works the same, but there's just some things that are speeded up, and there's some added extras, and there's some, like, oh, now I can do this. I didn't know. My phone, when you get a new phone upgrade, and it's like suddenly like, oh, I didn't realize I could just do that with it. And so I completely get that it's getting an energetic upgrade, and that makes sense to me totally. And I completely and utterly hear you. I absolutely don't believe that anybody is more than or less than or anything. I think that when you begin to move into these higher, I say higher, I don't mean higher on a hierarchy, higher as in just, I don't know, higher like that. When you move into these higher realms of understanding and consciousness, your ego it becomes like less important. And suddenly when your ego is, subsides and whatever, then there's no longer this, well, you're not going to get the egotistical, well, I'm here and you're there. You don't have that because that's ego, right? But you no longer also have the, oh, I'm here and she's there. You also don't have that. You don't have that less than, and you don't have that more than. You don't have that comparison. You're just sovereign in your own essence, in your own being, and you're on your own journey, and it's exciting, and it's, healing, and you go through a lot of different things, but it's like everyone else is around you and you see them on a soul level. You almost see that somebody who's behaving in a way that maybe you would have formerly judged as being really egotistical, or very, just labeling them as being a certain way. You're able to see them on a soul level, and to see that that's the challenge that their soul chose for them to have in this lifetime, is to go through that and to be like that. And then you have so much compassion, and not compassion like, oh, I feel really sorry for you, but just compassion, just okay. And then people can kind of behave in different ways around you, and it sort of flows off you like water off a duck's back, rather than affecting you, because you just see everybody as a bunch of souls living out this lifetime. And that next time they'll come back, and maybe they'll be redoing that because this time they didn't get it in this lifetime, they'll get it again next time. So I was even able to, during the US elections, with Trump and with all this kind of stuff, I don't like Donald Trump, but I wasn't like venomous about it. I wasn't like, oh my God, this guy's, whatever. And I can name other people in the world as well. I see everybody on a soul level, and I can see, I can have compassion for how they are. And we all have kind of different soul destinies in this lifetime. And some people's soul destiny really is to be a big, huge change maker, and to they're here to like do things like that. And other people are here to spread love and joy. And there's, different things that we're here to do, which is one of the things I love about sharing people's soul plans with them, because then they no longer go around with arbitrary goals that they think they should be doing, but they're like in alignment with actually what their soul destiny and what the goals are that they chose to have in this lifetime. So yeah,
and what a relief to actually know that, right? And to go, because I'm an identical twin, and the amount of people who think that when you're an identical twin you're the same person, which clearly we are not. So obviously our paths are really different. But if it's okay, Kelly, I just want to jump back to this ascension thing,
yes,
just really
please.
briefly.
Yeah, no.
Because I think we were talking about awakening and how it can be really gentle and, slow or slower. But the thing that I think is really important to talk about and acknowledge with, this expansion, this upgrade that we're going to be going through, if that's our journey, is the uncomfortableness of it. And I think it's really important to own and acknowledge and be okay with the fact that you might actually be out of action for a week because your body is just saying, you have to be here in bed relaxing. So if we use the computer or the phone analogy again, like if I do an operating system update on my computer, it can take hours, depending on internet speed, the size of the download, the whole kit and caboodle, right? And maybe I'll come back to it tomorrow and I'll have to, still think and do a few random things. But it takes time for it to settle into the flow of what that new upgrade is. And our physical bodies, these are dense, heavy, solid masses. And if we are getting a big upgrade or an expansion from our spirit team or the universe, then our poor little bodies are going to feel it. So it could be exhaustion or migraines or upset tummies, or there's 1,000 symptoms, right? We don't need to go there. But I just think, I really want the listener to acknowledge that if they're in this space, to just go, it's okay, and just allow it to be. Like if you are able to, close the curtains and go to sleep at 2:00, even though it's a Wednesday afternoon or whatever, then please go ahead and do that, because the more, this is one learning big learning I've had, is the more that I own where I am in my expansion journey, the quicker the process. So last week, for example, I'm currently part of this conscious book writing club, and I'm writing my book, and we have to write and hand in our writing 2 days prior to our meeting to our accountability partner. And our meetings are on Wednesday, and I hadn't written anything Monday through Friday, like zip. And so I sent a message to the lady running the course and my accountability partner, and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm currently going through an existential crisis and my body is not coping. So I will just see what I can get done from a writing perspective. As soon as I acknowledged where I was at, within 24 hours, I was back to sitting and writing at my computer, right?
It's just now, acknowledging it.
And yes, I've been through it a few times, a few thousand times, but regardless, the more you acknowledge it, the more you give it what it needs, which is really giving you what you need, then you will move through that, expansion more quickly. And then again, like you said, with your phone, you'll come out the other side and you'll go, oh, that's interesting, I've got that little ability now. Oh, or that's, a new thing I can do, which is kind of fun.
I love that. And that's so true. I have been that way, where I've just been like, oh my God, why? I had, make my to-do list in the morning of everything I'm going to get done. And I'm just hit a brick wall. And I'm like, oh my God, I just have to go and lie down. And, whatever. It's just like, oh, what's wrong with me? What's going on? I was supposed to go to the gym today. And I'm on the elliptical machine. I'm like, oh, I just have no energy. What's wrong with me? Whatever. And it's like, yeah, just like acknowledge, realize that you just need to like lie down for a bit, give yourself that time. And when I do that, you're absolutely right. When I just, put some essential oils around and put my crystals around me and lie down, then I move through it so much faster. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's hard to do in our busy pace. And, we're women and we can carry a gazillion things at once. When we actually just say, no, I can't do this now, I really need to give to me. It's amazing how more quickly we can move through some of those uncomfortable symptoms. But that's also not to say you shouldn't go and get support. Like if you want to go see your kinesiologist or Reiki practitioner or massage or do some tapping or whatever the thing is for you, go ahead and do those, because energetically that will help your system come back into balance as well.
And so back to ascension again. So I get the analogy of that we're getting an upgrade. And so my mind goes to, and then what? Like ascending. I mean, you hear of ascended masters, you hear of ascended, but you were talking about that happening on the other side. So do you have anything more to say on it?
That's what I think. Like, I don't think I have the right, as a little 3D body living, in Brisbane, Australia, walking my earth walk till, I don't know, however old I am when I finally die. I'm actually here on this planet to work out what it's like to be a human, yes. Right? And collect all of the disasters and all of the joy and all of the grief and all of the fun and the whole kit and caboodle of being a human, as much as it can be really, really tough. That's what I'm here to do. Yes, I'm here to expand. Yes, I'm here to grow. Yes, I'm here to, work with whatever spirit gives me in regards to whatever the upgrades or the expansions are. But is it my right to kind of go, I'm ascending as I walk here? Like, I figure I'm in the spirit land or spirit space for, I don't know, it could be thousands of years before I then reincarnate, right? So I'm doing lots of work over there as well. And I figured there's there's energies and vibrations in spirit land that know a lot more than I do. And so when I'm there, they'll help me, and whether that involves ascension on the other side, I will never consciously know.
That makes total sense to me. You're really good at, you are very good at the practical, what did you say? What's your tagline on your website?
On the blog, it says where practicality and spirituality collide.
There we go. See, you're very good at that. I have felt for such a long time, and I've got journal entries about it from years ago, that I thought, I believe that in this lifetime, I'm meant to amass as much knowledge and information as I can, so that when I leave, and I can eventually come back again, because I have believed in reincarnation for a very long time, that when I come back again, I'll come back at a more elevated place right from birth. You know how there's some people who are just born, well, you, for example, you know, born already from a child, already having these like clairvoyant abilities and everything like that. Not me, you know? So I feel like in this lifetime, if I can just learn and grow and be curious and be open and just amass, you know, lots of information, and healing, like heal things from myself, which is in turn healing things from my ancestral line and the future and past and everything, healing. And then when I come back next time, I'll come back at a more elevated like starting point, you know? And then I think the more of us who come back from an elevated starting point, as opposed to coming back Fred and Wilma Flintstone level, if we come back at this level, then it just means that we can be ascending the planet into like whatever is the next step for humanity, for the whole planet, you know? So I know I'm getting really off on one there, but it's just something that I have always felt. So that's why I'm such a eager beaver when it comes to like just dabbling in everything and exploring everything. And I'm turning my spiritual challenge, that 6/6 challenge of butterfly nature and wanting to dive into everything, but I'm learning to turn that into a gift. Because it is, being a dabbler is really fun and I enjoy it. And so my affirmation around that, I wrote myself an affirmation. I'm aware of my challenge of getting immersed in many spiritual themes and ideas without filtering, flitting from one thing to the next and feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and losing my energy. When I feel my energy is scattered, I will take scleranthesis, which is a Bach flower remedy for helping you to feel more focused. I will choose one activity at a time and see it through to a high level. I will prioritize what is actually important and break goals down into step by step. And I will channel my creativity in ways that sees them through to fruition. My mind is open to spiritual abundance. Yeah, I just needed to take that challenge and see what gifts it has brought me, because being a spiritual junkie has given me great podcast, and it's given me the ability to be able to share a lot of different things with a lot of people and to experience a lot of things. So I no longer see that as my spiritual challenge. I now see it as a gift.
I love that. I think that's really cool. I use this term healer hunter, but what I'm hearing from you is that you're actually curating the learnings, whereas a healer hunter is someone who always looks externally to themselves and thinks the thing or the person or the book or the workshop or the learning will heal them. And so they're a bit of a junkie, like a healer hunter junkie, whereas you're beautifully curating your experiences and then you're able to bring it forward in your podcast and your work.
Yeah, I'm all about like having the experience and then sharing it out. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Oh gosh, Helen, I could talk to you forever. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I definitely wanted to make sure I asked you about. Well, I think overall, I just wanted to, out of this conversation, for anybody listening who feels nervous about stepping out of the woo-woo closet, they know that they've got these parts of themselves, and it could either be a part of that they're not bringing it into their work the way that they want to, or that they're just not in their lives, you know, they're hiding this part of themselves. I just like want to hope that our conversation helps to encourage people that the more you open up about it, the less, like you said before, people are less judgmental and reactionary about it than you think in your head they're going to be. And also, the more you open up, the more you find your tribe. I've had so many people who've done sort of tarot sessions with me and things like that say, oh, I mentioned to a work colleague that I had a tarot session with you last night. And it turns out she loves tarot too. And now we have this connection. And neither one of them, they sat next to each other. Neither one of them ever said that about that to each other. And now they've got this like buddy at work who they can talk to about stuff like that. So I say, just like drop that kind of stuff in, normalize the conversation, just say that kind of thing. If they react in a way that isn't like favorable, like don't take it personally. Like not everybody's on the same level. It doesn't have to crush you. It doesn't have to like throw you back into the woo-woo closet with the door locked the way that it did me, that offhanded comment from my husband, which he didn't mean any harm by. So yeah, people, you just like go for it.
Yeah, definitely go for it. And you may be surprised. You may find, a new best friend or a new experience or opportunity, which will help you expand even more, instead of, being quiet, living in fear or worry. And that just, being open to that expansion really excites me. And, it excites me for what we are able to do in this world, in and amongst the chaos and the crazy and the overwhelm. And we need more people to step forward. So hooray for us and anyone
Yay.
Listening who's willing to as well.
Great. Thank you, Helen. So I want to make sure everyone knows how to find you. So tell everyone about your website and what are your social media handles and all that.
Sure. So helenjoybutler.com is my website. And Facebook and Instagram are my two main platforms, and that's just at Helen Joy Butler. But as you've already said, there's a podcast, which is the Trust and Transform, the Your Inner Room podcast. And prior to that podcast was another one called Musings on Sanctuary and Spirituality. So that's a really good one to, particularly for people that are, maybe new on their journey, to step into, what is sanctuary, what is spirituality. And then, of course, this other one is, we've just taken a pause from the podcast.
I just heard that there's a season. Yeah, you have a season. I think I need to have a season 3 coming up too. We're still in season 2.
Yeah, well, you need a pause. Like in the last episode, I just said, we're just pausing because Spirit's now saying it's time to pause. Yeah. So I'm following that, and then I'll be back with more, when it's time.
Brilliant. Love it. Okay, Helen, well, I'll put all the links for everything too in the show notes. And I'm so happy that we picked up this conversation again with the mics turned on this time. It's really great seeing you and connecting with you again. And I just know our paths will continue to weave in and out in this beautiful way that it has since 2012.
Oh my gosh, see, I'm so glad you remember that, Kelly, because I'm hopeless with years and dates and months and days and time and all of it. So even the fact that you remember that it's been 10 years that we've connected, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Helen. Lots of love.
Same. Bye.
Bye-bye.